Hola, ¿cómo estás, Carlos?
Hola Violeta, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, bien, aquí de nuevo.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, how many people are we?
Right now, we are letting some people in. We are 22 right now.
All right.
And
all my friends in Mexico.
Yeah. But your best friend in Mexico is myself, isn't me?
Yes, yes. So nice to be in touch with my man. Now, is everybody here from Mexico, or is this from throughout, or where? Carlos?
We don't hear you.
Mexico.
Like we're all.
Oh,
from
am I muted?
Mexico,
Let me
country,
see.
but I don't know.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. But the people usually they have the microphones off, so when they turn, when
but
they
you can tell me, Carlos.
Yeah.
So everybody here is basically mostly it's a Mexican Mexico
Yeah.
City.
I don't know if there is anyone from outside of Mexico City to do just some kind of creative things, you know, like something that gives you some of something just to keep going on. So what do you think about that, Matt? I mean, you've been working a lot in paintings. You were telling me that you were listening to a lot of music. I don't know if you know, but Matt is one of the biggest.
I don't know about everybody else. I was going to say, I don't know about everybody else, but I certainly felt like, well, when I realized at a certain point that we were basically going to be in a quarantine sort of lockdown situation, that I would accomplish a lot of the things that I always thought I'd be able to accomplish if I had this kind of time to be at home. And that was okay for the first couple of days. And then it's funny because even if you see behind me, this is my living room here, okay? And my living room, I basically, because I do paint and I like to draw and do make art and things, and I turned half of my living room into a studio, you know, into my studio, and which was very, that was satisfying in and of itself. You can see here, I'll just tilt this up here. You can see I laid down, I taped the floor down, and I got a table here, and I brought my art supplies into my living room. Thankfully, my girlfriend isn't here. She's in Rome. She would have killed me to see what I did to the house, but and then I didn't do anything. Well, it's not that I didn't do anything. I didn't do as much as I thought I might do. You know, I thought I would get more done. I thought it would give me the opportunity to allow me to get more things done. However, it's not to say I haven't done anything. And in the end, I can't help it because I am a creative person. That's the way I am. I'm a little more built that way than a businessman. I'm a little more geared that way, and I need to do that for my own sanity, and so I don't get myself in trouble too much. And you know, so some things started to come to me. And for example, one of the things that came to me, and it came through my painter and drawers, my friends that draw and paint, make art. And it was a project that came together, and it was a crazy thing. It was in the Philippines, and it was an art exhibition, group show of different artists from around the world. And the theme was pretty loose, but it was pretty much anything to do with here and now, what we're dealing with quarantine and with COVID and with this kind of isolation, and then we faxed the work, not fax, but we sent a file of the work, and then the work was printed there in the Philippines, and they were under quarantine too. And I think the president there said they'll shoot you if you go out onto the street. So I thought that was pretty crazy that they did it. And, you know, so I took part in an exhibition in a beautiful part of the Philippines without having to do anything except I did a drawing, and the drawing was called Breathers. There was so much debate about how is this thing getting passed? Is it airborne or isn't it airborne? airborne. And I thought, wow, that's so crazy. So that was the drawing that I did. And it was just, but it was nice to participate in something like that. And again, it's another one of those things that we're kind of doing here now. We're doing things remotely, right? So I might normally have done something, and I've done stuff with Casa Vicini before, where we're talking and there's a large gathering of people, but here I am alone in my house, you know, but with you guys, so here we are connected. Yeah.
Anyone wants to say something?
I want.
Okay, Regina?
Well, hi, first of all. And I think that it's the same. Well, not the same, but like I always wanted to do things, but it was like, oh, if I just had the time, oh, if I don't have like a lot of things to do, maybe I could do that. And now that I have the time, it's like, maybe I really don't want to do that, you know? Or I learned to cook mostly, like desserts or something like that. And it's kind of fun, but later it's like, maybe I could do something more. And I think the time is like, I don't know, sometimes it's so big that I really can't like think what else had to do. I mean, like I just watch this and I just do this, and later what else, you know, like what is next for this quarantine? Because right here in Mexico, every time it's just longer and longer and longer, and it's like, well, when this finished, what it's now with life, you know? I feel like a little anxiety in that part. Then of the quarantine, what is next? Like real life, like new life, like
Yeah.
what is happening with life now?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's interesting. I think I really have to resist treating these days like they're sick days. You know, it's like when you get sick from work or you get sick and go home from school, and you just kind of can go lay in bed and not do anything. And I think it's a fine line. It's a difficult balancing act, because on one hand, I feel like if I don't adjust to this new brave new world that we're in right now, if I don't kind of adjust to it, then I'm gonna snap. I have to learn to be a little flexible and realize that things are happening in a different way. Like Carlos and I are involved in a project. You know, he's a producer on it. It's a film that I've been working on for many years as a director. Project is finished, thankfully, and I feel quite good about it. Although we were doing we were making some adjustments in the cut. And in the middle of it, we got hit with this COVID-19 madness, and everything got shut down. And so for a while, I didn't really deal with it. But as soon as I started to deal with it, it became difficult because we weren't working the same way we were used to working. And so there's a part of me, and I guess what I want to talk about is acceptance, right? You have to accept that we're in a situation. You know, you don't have to like it, but you have to kind of accept that this is where we're at right now. And it doesn't mean you don't have options or choices. We always have that, right? But so I have to do a little bit of acceptance. However, I still have to show up, and I still have to show up for this damn project, you know, this film, which I'm very proud of, but you know, we have to keep showing up. So, you know, and what is the thing that ultimately sustains me, sustains us, I think, are the simple things in life, like having a good meal, or like you said, learning to do something, cooking, watching a good film, going out and getting some exercise, some fresh air, picking up the phone and calling mom, right? Checking in on loved ones, you know? And so those really have been the things that sustain me. I mean, I started to realize, you know, I'm pretty good at making a bed. You know, like I never thought myself, like I used to just throw, you know, now I actually make the bed, you know, sometimes. And I'm like, I'm actually pretty good at it. So we learn things, or I learned to cook some new dishes. I learned to make chicken cacciatore, for example. and I'm getting there. It's not bad. It's pretty good. I think people really enjoy my new cooking when we can all get together and do that. Anyway, there you have it. And what about somebody else? Does anybody have something you want to say on the subject?
Well, I was thinking, but now the problem for me is gonna be when they allow us to go back on the streets. You know, like at some point I feel sad because I want to go out, but I am thinking that when somebody tells me now you can go out, I won't feel like it. You know, like I'm getting used to being in my house, so I don't know how is it gonna be, and then you're gonna get scared about the people. You will not want to get close to the people because you would think that they would probably have the virus, something like that. You know, it's just like some strange thing that is happening in my brain. So
yeah, and I think that the most important thing is precisely that. How are we gonna involve in human relationships again?
Yeah, right. Like, is the handshake going to become a thing of the past, right? I've heard people say that. What about handshakes? What about holding hands, you know? And I don't imagine that that's going to go away, you know, really. You know, it's an interesting thing. I'm going to just divert here a little bit and talk about my grandfather, right? So he was born here in New York City in Harlem, 1900. And so when I would ride the subway with him or be somewhere in a public place and I would touch a handrail, you know, or a hand railing or something, he would grab me and yell at me and say, don't touch that because somebody touches the handrail and you put it on your, that's how you get sick. That stayed in my head. And that was since I was 5 or 6 years old, you know. And we used to laugh about my grandfather because he was very, very, very clean, very neat, also very fastidious, you know, type of a person, very, very always worried about cleanliness, you know. Mm-hmm. And then only realized now that we're going through this thing that of course he felt that way because he went through the pandemic of 1918, what they call the Spanish influenza, right? He went through that. He came of age. He was an 18-year-old boy, right? So he was aware of that. And so it obviously colored the way he was with hygiene. So that affected him. And it never occurred to me. So my link to the last pandemic that we had was my late grandfather and talking to him, not from a history book, but from a direct link. And I don't know why that made me think of it when you said, how are we gonna get back on with our lives? Well, I think it's inevitable that it will have affected us in the way that we behave and the way that we live, for sure. And maybe that will be a good thing. Maybe that will be good, right?
But I think we have to get over that. I mean, I think we don't have to be scared because otherwise we're going to die because of depression instead of COVID, you know? So I think we just have to go on and...
I totally agree. We can't live in fear, you know, and we can't live in fear, but we have to use common sense, right? As we go through all this stuff. Because we don't really know that much right now. We really don't know so much. We'll know more and more as we go.
But talking something else besides the COVID, I was gonna tell all the people that, I don't know if you know, but Matt is one of the biggest collectors of Cuban music in the world. He's a rocker. He loves rock and roll as well as me. We share some good taste of music. And besides that, he has taught me a lot of great music, a lot of Cuban music that I didn't know before. Like we started working in this project called The Great Feyoe. And when I am in his place, he just wants to play to me like the best records that he has. But it's impossible because he has like 100,000 records. I don't know how many. So what about you guys? So there is someone here that likes music, that likes Cuban music.
I love Cuban music.
You love Cuban music, Pavel?
Yes. Matt, well, my favorite Cuban artist is Arsenio Rodriguez. So what's your opinion about Arsenio, Matt?
I love Arsenio Rodriguez. I mean, he's one of my heroes in this music.
Yeah.
I think one of the great Arsenio Rodriguez is I mean, probably.
I think it's like, I don't know, like Jimi Hendrix of Cuban music, probably. Like so experimental, avant-garde.
He was an innovator in so many
Yeah.
ways. I mean, I think, well, many people credit him for being the one who introduced the conga drum into the conjunto. And so he changed the way the sound was. And he obviously was very deeply in touch with his Congolese African roots, you know, that he was very connected to that. But he was a brilliant composer. You know, it's an interesting thing because he didn't sing much, you know, but we always know that it's not his voice. It's not the voice it's the sound that he created. And there were so many other groups that were offshoots of him. And, you know, there were many groups that were, it all runs through him, you know, in many ways. And then even to later groups that, like in New York, like Eddie Palmieri, and a lot of the groups, Tito Puente, you know, before that. And all those groups that came later in the 60s were so influenced by Arsenio. Arsenio was the hero, and then he moved to the Bronx. You know, he lived in New York and in Spanish Harlem, and you know, and then eventually he died in California. But you know, it's funny, Carlos. Do you remember when we talked to you know Tonga Lele was a very important artist. She was a dancer and performer, a vidette they called them, right, in Mexican film.
Of course.
Right. And
we went to her place.
Right, we went to her place. She was wonderful, really amazing, really how she still looks great. And, you know, she's an icon, you know. I mean, she's really, truly an icon in that era of that great golden era of Mexican cinema. And she told me that Arsenio, even though he was blind, he knew what dance steps she was doing.
Wow.
And she said she didn't know, how did he know that? But there was something about Arsenio that had this kind of, other sense of things, you know? And, but extremely important and a real, you know, hero to me in the music, you know? And I've always loved music, you know, and so I've always had that. And I think in the other areas I felt that way about, in jazz, I felt that way about people like Thelonious Monk, you know, or, you know, just different people, or for me, Fats Navarro, who died young, was a great trumpet player. And I've always had that kind of music. So I love all kinds of music, not just Cuban music.
No, you're a rock and roll lover as well. You remember you gave me this Dinosaur Jr. t-shirt that I still have.
Yes.
It.
You still have it?
Of course.
I want it back.
No, you gave it to me.
Yeah. No, yeah, this was a great group.
Well, let's say cheers. We have to make a stop and say cheers with the
Salute.
coffee. Or with the...
Cheers. Matt, may I say something?
Yeah, just Violeta.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Actually, talking about music, the movie that makes me remember review the most, it's Singles. And the reason why I watched that movie is because I am a huge Alice in Chains fans. I love all this grunge music, but Alice in Chains is one of my favorites. And that's the reason why I watched that movie. And your role there, this rockstar attitude, this long wig you're wearing, it's really amazing and it's really hilarious. It's what do you think about that project? Back then, when you made that movie, were that fan of that kind of music, or you just made it because the role was interesting?
Well, I'll tell you about the role. was Cameron Crowe was the director, and I love Cameron, and I liked his previous film, and I thought I liked him, and I really liked him, and he came to me with this character. I want you to play this character that's in the script, and I said, well, I'd love to do it, but I don't even remember the character in the script. And he said, don't worry about that. We're gonna make that character really, really good. And he did. You know, I mean, he was one of those directors who promised something and he came through. And so it was a little bit of a leap of faith to know what he wanted to do with it. And he knew I liked rock music and indie rock music, and so did he. And he said to me, you know, the music, the character is a musician, a guy that doesn't exist in New York and he doesn't exist in LA. It's something in the middle there. And I thought, well, there's Minnesota, right? There were the Replacements and Husker Du and all of these groups that came out of Minnesota, these rock groups. And he said, yes. And now there's something that's happening in Seattle, you know, and these groups are great, you know. And there was, but none of them were known yet. None of them. Alice in Chains wasn't out yet, I don't believe. There were groups that had, Pearl Jam was not even the name of the group yet. The name of the group was not even, they were figuring out the name.
It was Mother Love Bone or something like that, wasn't it?
Well, the first group that they were in was called Mother Love Bone, and then the singer died of an overdose. And so the remaining members of the band brought on a new singer that they met, I think, through one of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Eddie Vedder, and they brought him on. And then they weren't sure what the group was going to be called. I think when I met them, because they came to New York, and we went out drinking one night, you know, all of us. And Eddie Vedder was new to the band, and they didn't have a name yet. They were thinking of calling the band Mookie Blaylock, who was a basketball player on the New Jersey Nets at that time. But they didn't have a name. And eventually they changed it to Pearl Jam. And so then and I got to Seattle, we made the movie, and it was amazing because there was really a tight scene. And there were like Mother Love Bone, as you mentioned, and Pearl Jam, who wasn't called Pearl Jam yet, I don't believe.
Chris Cornell was there.
Chris Cornell was
right?
Soundgarden, very
was
nice.
Was it Soundgarden?
Soundgarden, yes.
Soundgarden, right? He was
Yes.
there with him.
There were, it was a very close-knit scene, but I never heard of anybody called Nirvana. Nobody. Never heard of Nirvana. I didn't hear them at that point. Now, I think they were not really part of that scene. They were a different thing.
Yeah.
And then I met them coming back from Seattle when we were doing reshoots, and I met them on the plane. I met Grohl, and I met the two guys, but I didn't meet Kurt Cobain. And so that was that experience. And then of course, by the time the movie came out, all those bands blew up. But it was waiting to happen. It was waiting, and then when it happened, it was it was a big deal.
So the movie helped them to become that famous?
Well, I think it helped the movie, and the movie probably helped them. I'm sure it was a very good thing either way, but they were going to be, I think that all of those groups were already on their way. They were already, they were ready to go, and they were working, playing all the time. They were very
they had the material, definitely.
They were serious. All those guys, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, all of them. And then there were some other groups. There was a group called Tad, I think. Tad. There was a guy named Tad. He's in the movie somewhere. And then there were like groups like Mudhoney, but that was a different thing,
Mm-hmm.
They were around. Mark Arm, I remember there was a guy. Mark Arm was his And yeah. But it was fun. It was fun. I took guitar lessons from Eddie Vedder. Well, I don't think he was a very good guitar player either at the time. But it was okay. I had a really good guitar player here in New York named Adam Roth, who was my good friend. He died. He was a great guitar player. He used to play with the Del Fuegos, if you remember that group.
No, Del Fuegos?
The Del Fuegos, that was the name of the group. And he used to play with Jim Carroll, the band Jim Carroll, rock band. That Jim Carroll, you know Jim Carroll, the poet? He was a beat, kind of a later.
Beatnik.
Well, somebody else that wants to say something about life and about whatever.
Well,
Because,
Hi.
yeah. Sí, Ana Marroquín and then CRC.
What do you think about Anima by Tom York? Did you watch it?
I'm sorry?
What do you think about Anima by Tom York? Did you watch it?
No.
No? Oh.
Who?
Animal
Yeah,
by
I really love it. Yeah.
Tom York from Radiohead.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. I haven't followed.
The final was chills, really chills.
It's a documentary?
More or less.
What is it? What is it? It's a film, a music film? About the guy from Radiohead?
Yeah, it's like a short film that was
Yes.
directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Ah, I saw
Oh,
it. It's in Netflix. It's a very arty
Yes.
film. Yeah, it's like a 23 minutes film, isn't it?
50,
Something like that.
more or
15
less.
minutes, 50.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. You should watch it. It's like a very kind of artistic film. It's nice, but at some point,
Well, Paul Thomas Anderson's great.
a
And
little bit too much.
really? Okay, I haven't seen it. Ooh, okay, Carlos. There you go. The critique.
Micrófonos apagados, porfa, por ahí. Ah, perfecto. Okay, so now, CRC, he wants to say something.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yes.
Everyone, yes? Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a great pleasure to be here. And Matt, it's also a great pleasure to meet you this way. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I'm not so young anymore. But there are so many questions really I want to ask you, but I don't want to spread out too much. The music, returning to the music thing, that brings me to the score, the song, the drummer from the Police made for the movie Rumblefish, Don't Box Me In. That is a great music for me, a great song. But I really want to ask you and take this opportunity, because it's been a long time, to try to say something to you. It's about your movies, your first stage of your career, when you made a movie called Texas, then you made The Outsiders, and then you made, of course, Rumblefish, and taking you back to that stage of your life as an actor, as a person. What was really the difference between starting very young age in Texas and becoming like this big fan, this big star, I mean, once you made Rumblefish? What was that stage in your mind as an actor, as a person, and having worked with so many great directors as Francis Coppola, and twice with Francis Coppola, and then with Mickey Rourke? I mean, how was that experience for you as an actor, as a person? And this brings me all back to the music thing. And what is your opinion about the score also? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I thought the score was great of Rumblefish, and Stuart Copeland, the drummer from the Police. And, you know, Francis was very involved in that score. You know, he was very involved in that, making that, creating that music for the film. He was really into it. And I think that's really interesting to look at Francis as what a dynamic filmmaker he was, and person, really a person who was quite brilliant man, who had very, you know, he had such a great appetite and curiosity for the world around him. And I think he you know, I was fortunate enough, I was very young, really. I mean, so you mentioned a movie called Tex, which I did when I was 17 years old. And by the time I did The Outsiders and Rumblefish, I had just turned 18 years old. And those three books, those three stories, two of them, the later two, The Outsiders and Rumblefish, were made by Coppola, but they were all based on books by S.E. Hinton, who was a young novelist, a woman from Oklahoma who wrote these books that immensely popular, kind of young adult classics, you know. And so when I think of that period, I mean, obviously, if I look at the, you know, making Rumblefish, we made Rumblefish right after we made The Outsiders. They like, it was one right after the other. And so they're very connected, but you know, God, it was so long ago. And for me, I look at it as a great opportunity. I learned on the job, but to work with somebody who really was truly a genius, I think, in Francis, in terms of his, he was, I'd say though, a real man of action, you know, like a guy who's like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. In fact, when we were making Outsiders, he came to me and said, I want to do this other book by S.E. Hinton, and I want you to star in it. And it was Rumblefish. It wasn't like he planned that ahead. He started that started to come together while we were in the middle of making The Outsiders. And then he had me, and it was all at the same time he was having me watch Kurosawa films, you know. For some reason he felt it was really important. And that's really, Francis was a great referencer, you know. I mean, when we were working together, we were always referencing film history, you know. And I don't mean, and that's a brilliant guy. I mean, he's not afraid to embrace the influence of John Ford or Carol Reed or Orson Welles or Sam Fuller or whoever. And, you know, we would watch movies. And making Rumblefish was a film that was made, probably 90% of the film was shot at night, you know. So it really was a night film, you know. So we would finish filming, and then we would have screenings of movies at like 7 in the morning. We'd be watching The Best Years of Our Lives, or Yojimbo, you know, or a silent film with Emil Janin. We would watch movies. Or when Dennis Hopper was there, we shipped in all of Dennis's crazy movies, like The Last Movie, all those fucking crazy movies that he made. But good movies too, like the movie he made Out of the Blue, which was a great film. And so that's what I think it was, that experience, you know, but they couldn't, I mean, you take Rumblefish and Outsiders, it's like they're two entirely different movies, you know. One is like film noir, dark, black and white, kind of old. That's what that film is looking toward. And the other one is Technicolor, you know, MGM, you know, Gone with the Wind, you know. So Outsiders is like this big epic looking thing, and Rumblefish is a small black and white movie.
Can I also ask you just one last question? How was it back then in those years to kiss twice in a movie Diane Lane? She's always been hot.
She's beautiful.
But that's not a good question, man.
Let's get another question, because she's beautiful. Of course she was great to kiss.
I want to ask something. I'm sorry.
Yes, I think there was someone else before.
We can do a couple more questions. Let's go.
Okay, Barbara.
Hey, hello.
Hi,
How are
Barbara.
you? I want to ask you as a director. You as a director, what's the part you enjoy the most of that part of the creative work?
Okay, what is your name? You're Barbara, right?
Yeah, Barbara. Mm-hmm.
Why do you have an English accent?
Because my family, part of my family is English. I'm from Argentina and I just moved to Mexico.
Ah, okay, okay. Now, what was the question? I'm sorry that you asked.
No, you as a director, no? What's the part of the whole creative process you enjoy the most as a director?
Well, I think what's really gratifying about it is that you sometimes will have a vision. You have a vision always, but you know, you have a vision, and then when you see the vision that you had come to life, that's a very, very gratifying feeling. Is to kind of, you're not sure how something's going to work. You try, let's try it. Let's see what happens. You write it, or you plan it with the cameraman, or you talk about it with the editor, and then you try it. You say, let's do it. Let's give it a shot. And then it works. There's nothing more gratifying than that. And it sustains you, you know, creatively. It helps you want to go back and do it again. So no matter how difficult it was, it helps to fuel, you know, fuel your next day, you know. I remember that no matter how tiring it was, like we were in Cambodia, I was making a film there. And I remembered that it was like we were working very long hours, and it was very hot and very uncomfortable, and there were a lot of challenges like that. But every day I felt like we were winning. You know, we were executing, and I remembered the feeling. My feeling was, and it was suggested to me by a director, and I don't remember which one, but I remembered it. He said to me, when you leave, when you're done with the day, you want to have gotten more than you bargained for, right? So like I was kind of greedy like that, you know? I wanted greatness. I wanted something great every day. You know, I wanted to go, yes, we got something great today. You know, I wanted to walk away knowing that we had accomplished maybe even more than we had planned for. And that is exciting. That's a very exciting thing to do, you know? And he said, you know, and that sometimes would go against the production. They don't want you to do that, you know? Now, I learned something. I worked with Lars von Trier, right? And Lars von Trier is a great director. And I think, you know, if I said Francis was a genius, and I do believe Francis truly, and I don't throw the word around a lot, but Lars von Trier is a genius. I think he's a brilliant man. And I really mean that. The way he thinks, a fascinating mind and a great artist. And he's a paradoxical figure because when we worked together, we would do 9-hour days, very short days, you know? Like, and yet we were doing these really difficult, I mean, it's a very, I don't know if you know much about the movie, The House that Jack Built. It's a very, very dark movie and a very heavy subject matter. I mean, and some days it was like, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but we would do it and we would finish and it would be a short day, but there was nothing compromised. We ended up getting everything that he wanted. He got such good stuff every day. Every day was a success. Now, whether you like what he has to say, that's another thing with Lars. But I think he probably, one of the most brilliant things about him is that he doesn't walk away. He succeeds at doing what his intentions are. You know, he succeeds at that. It's pretty impressive, you know, and he does it. He's very confident about that, you know, about going about that.
Well, thanks a lot. That was a great answer.
I think Emmanuel wants to say something, and then Jose Martin wants to offer some music recommendations. And at some point, I was talking to Matt before the conversation started, that he would like to ask some questions to the Mexican people as well. This is a conversation more than a Q&A, so let's do it as well. If you want to ask something, Matt, please feel free. Okay, Emmanuel?
Hi, Matt. I really want to ask you this about your short film with Yorgos, Nimic. How was
Which
it?
one?
Nimic with Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah, yes.
How was it working with Yorgos?
Yorgos?
There will there be a way to watch Nimic here in Mexico?
You know, I'm not the distributor, and I'm not really sure. I know it's played in festivals. I don't know if you can get it on streaming. That you'll have to look that one up, but I'm sure you can find it. He's a great filmmaker, and I mean, I think it was one of the strangest films I ever made, but I like doing it. I think when you're an actor, the best thing you can hope for, or anybody to collaborate, is with a director who has a vision, you know, somebody who really has a voice, point of view. And if a director has a point of view and I unless there's something I really don't like about the point of view, I want to go with the director. If they have a good point of view, if they have a voice, I want to support that. And that's like the best thing you can hope for as an actor, you know, really. So I like doing it with him. We shot it in Mexico City. So it was nice for me to be able to come back to a city that I love, you know, Mexico City. I've spent a lot of time there on my documentary, and I go back and forth, and I feel I have a very strong connection with Mexico. I really feel that in my heart. I love Mexico. It's a very special place. Yeah, I know it's a big country, so there's probably things about it that I won't like, but my feeling is, you know, my feelings about the way I've been treated and how Mexico has been for me is very, very strong affection. And so it was great working with him. We worked incredibly long days on that, you know. So there again, now I said, Lars, we were working these short days, we were getting a lot done. When I worked with Yorgos, we were working very long days, but he got things done. And, you know, you haven't seen the film, and so I won't try to explain it to you because it's pretty hard to explain, but, you know, I kept trying to corner him on what the movie was about. And he would I got the sense that he, like Lars, doesn't want everything to be explained, you know? And so, but part of the fun of it was trying to interpret it, you know, as we went along, as we went forward with it. But hey, listen, anytime I'm on a movie set and I'm with the director and I'm doing something I've never done before, I'm happy. You know, I'm happy. We're not just doing something that's safe, that's, you know, I'm happy because what we're doing is really exciting. It's like going on an adventure. And working with Yorgos was very much that way.
Well, I think the strangest thing that happened to you during that shooting was having the pre-Christmas dinner with my crazy family. Wasn't it? Eating tacos de lengua.
That was okay, man. That was okay. That was funny.
That was so funny. Yeah. And so who else wanted to ask something? Jose Martin. Sorry, Jose Martin. What's his?
I want to ask something too.
Who? Sorry?
Me. I want to ask later.
Go for it.
Me too later, please.
Go Val, and then Jose Martin.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Well, I study visual arts, and I'm really intrigued by your paintings and your artwork, and I would like to, if you want, to show it to us, all your paintings you have behind you?
Oh, well, I can't show you everything, but I can show you some things, I suppose. I've been doing a project recently for a publisher out of Vienna, Austria, and the theme is on Moby Dick. So it's Harpoon Verlang is the name of the publishing company, and they've gotten all these different artists to do different chapters of Moby Dick, and I didn't realize that Moby Dick was 171 chapters. So I started to do that. That's what I've been doing. But I can show you a little bit of some stuff that I've been doing. I can show you also some art that is from friends of mine as well as, so here's Raymond Pettibone. Do you know Raymond Pettibone?
Yeah.
The drawing. This painting is by me. There, you see that? One there, there's a woman. And that's by John Waters up there, Frank Sinatra shooting heroin. And Andre Butzer, great German painter friend, and Francesco Clemente, Picabia, Francis Picabia. You see?
That's
and
a
over
great
here, we have, this one is by George Condo. And here's just some of my doodlings and work. Can you see that? This is my little table, but I haven't been doing too much lately. Here's a project I've been doing. It's called, it's in a series I've been doing about rumba, about Afro-Cuban and the diaspora of Afro-Cuban music and rumba. And so that is a thing that I did on that. So you can see, here's my kitchen with my drum.
I love the wings of the bird.
Huh? Can you see everything?
I love the wings of the bird.
Oh, you like that?
I love the wings. Like he's dancing, pretty happy.
Yes. So Bantu is the root. It's like the root of a lot of African languages, like the way Latin is the root for Spanish or Italian. And Bantu, so for me, because of my enthusiasm and passion for African music, Bantu you. So it's my university, you know. It's this exploration of this kind of music, you know.
Great.
Thank you. So you do what kind of painting? What kind of painting do you do? What kind of art do you make? So many great artists in Mexico.
I'm currently working on several stuff at the same time. I started like pretty academic, but then I discovered that art has so many shapes and things that you can do. And I got interested in software and generative art. So I don't know if you have watched something about it, but if you don't, you should. You just like search for generative art. It's art made of algorithms. So you make like these logical and mathematical propositions to make graphics. It can be interactive, and I don't know, I just love it. Like, you know, the intersection between the science and art, I just find it amazing. And well, I just yesterday I finished I don't know how to say, the drawing. Yeah, for a book. So, well, I have like this sketch.
Can I see
Join us, yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. It's for an anthology of short tales. And well, there is a short tale that's called Cockroach. I don't know if you can see it.
I can see there's an envelope there. Is that an airmail envelope, right?
Yeah, because one story of the anthology is about love letters and stuff. The other one is about an opera, and the other one is a murder. That's why it's like pretty bloody. And well, I practice, I think my favorite technique is watercolors. just have.
Oh, you like watercolor, huh?
Yeah, it's not finished yet.
Wow,
That's
But
beautiful.
yeah.
thank you.
So
And
what is the secret to watercolors? Because I always struggle. They're very difficult watercolors.
it's about understanding the drop, I think, the water drop, because it's not as consistent and dense, you know, as acrylic or other paintings as oil or something. So you have to take advantage of the texture of the paper and how it behaves, you know, the water drop on the surface in the paper. So once you get this, you can like try to play with the stains like over here. So you can make stuff like.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? It's water. I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Have you ever worked with a product called Flash?
Flash for
Yeah.
animation.
No, a
Flash?
product, un producto.
It's a type of vinyl paint that
It's the name of
very
the.
dense pigment, and it sort of works like tempera or watercolor. You can make it either opaque or transparent, translucent.
Okay, I haven't, but I will search for it.
Yeah, Flash, very good.
Yeah, and you should search for generative art. I'm sure that you're gonna like it.
Okay.
Okay.
I get a little bit scared when you start talking too much about algorithms and science, and I go, oh man, I'm like too much of a alligator brain for that.
I'm sorry, I'm just a nerd.
Yeah, that's cool. Where are you from? Where do you live?
I'm from Veracruz, and
Oh, you're in Veracruz too.
We are
yeah.
all jarochos, canallas jarochos.
Arrocho, son arrocho.
I'm from Jalapa, and if you like music, you should come because here is like a pretty cultural city. We have like the Jazz International Festival. It's about October, and you will love it. And here, you know, the music, it's like a mixture. We have rock bands, like progressive bands, and a lot of experimental things. I know you should love it.
All right,
The people that are from Veracruz will know what I'm talking about if you have been in Jalapa before.
And some jarocho as well, that Matt already
I
knows.
like son arrocho.
Thank you, Val. Actually, Jose Martin, he wants to offer us some good music recommendations. I mean, we don't have much time, so we have to.
Yeah, I gotta wrap it up.
Please. Yeah. Jose, tell us.
Hey, Matt. So I know you're a big fan of music and Cuban music, but there's this man that's called El Cigala, who is a very famous flamenco cantador.
I do know him. Yeah.
Yeah. And he did a collaboration in an album with Bebo Valdez, who
I know it. Yeah.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I know you know Bebo Valdez. He would be like the Thelonious Monk of Cuba. And they have an album together that's called Lágrimas Negras. And I think you should definitely dive into that album.
You know what? I know the record, but I will keep that in mind and give it another
chance.
Chucho is in our documentary. Chucho Valdez is in our documentary.
Oh, really?
El Gran Feobe. Yep.
Wow.
And because Bebo Valdez was a contemporary of Feobe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna do 2 more questions, so it's gonna be.
I want to ask.
Okay, first Diego Cortés, and then Edgar San Pedro, and Regina will be the last.
Okay, we got to do these quick. Let's go.
Yeah, Diego.
Yeah. Hi, Matt. As an actor, many people have motivations that makes them still doing what they like or things that enjoy, that make like making movies and acting in them are enjoyable for them. So what can you say is the particular thing in acting that makes you enjoy it and still going on in your career?
Well, I like the playfulness of acting. You know, if you're with good actors, I like to improv and do a lot of improvisation if it calls for it. But I think one of the nice things about it is you get to like become somebody else. You know, you get to become play a different person. Now you don't become somebody else. I mean, you know, you can live inside the skin of another character.
Like escaping of being yourself, right?
Well, I don't see it as escaping. I don't see it as escapism.
Okay.
It's my job. It's what I do. It's actually going into what I do rather than an escape
situation, right?
Thank you, Diego. Edgar?
Yeah, okay. Hi, Matt. First of all, I'm a huge fan. I'd love to ask you about your career on films, but I think that's pretty exhausting for you. So what I really want to ask you is, what about your day-by-day routine in this quarantine? You know, like I'm reading a lot of books, especially theater books, plays, biographies. So what about you? Can you tell us about your daily routine?
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because as I said, there were a lot of things that I never focused on, you know, like just cooking and cleaning and taking care of the house, you know. I did do that. I've always done that, but I always sort of like, you know, and I found myself having to do that. So it was important. First thing was I felt like the kitchen was really important, right? I have my vitamins to make sure I keep my immune system strong. And then I saw if I felt like, okay, if I was on a boat, you know, and this is my pilot's, you know, this is where I steer the ship. You know, I need to have a place that I can kind of call the heart of the home. And so that's been a part of it. I try to get exercise in, you know, and I try to keep in touch with friends, you know, but it's not always easy to be perfect with it. You know, I find that I start off the day and I'm eating really well. You know, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating clean, I'm doing all that. And by the nighttime, it's like ice cream. You know what I mean? It's ice cream, it's pizza. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that.
So, but you know, I find doing certain things like exercise, going for a walk, going for a bike ride, getting some extra, going up and down the stairs of the building, really important. You know, those are simple things that really sustain you.
Okay.
Regina, this is gonna be the last one. So.
Yeah, I just want you to ask if you like salsa music and if you like or you know to dance.
I fake it when I dance. I would not say I'm a great dancer. I'm not. I will dance though. I'm not afraid to dance. You know what I mean? I'll do it. And I like to dance. I play drums, some congas a little bit as a hobby. I'm not, I have friends that play with, you know, we play as a hobby, but you know, like I like to say, I fake it. You know what I mean? I'm a good fake salsa dancer. And as my friend Robert Farris Thompson said about mambo, he said, fake mambo is better than no mambo.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
Well, Matt, it's been incredible to have had the opportunity to talk to you. This activity, as I already told you guys, was to know Matt not just as an actor, but as a friend, as I know him, you know. And thank you very much for being so supportive always, Matt. It's been a very rough time. We haven't talked a lot lately, but I hope to really keep in touch, and I hope that you and all your family are doing well in New York. Thanks a lot for for giving us this time.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
I think we have to say cheers.
Thank you to the casa. Salute.
Salud.
I want to say something.
Salud.
Salud. Nice to
Salud.
see you guys. And
Thank you.
also, Casa Cine, keep your doors open. We need lovers of cinema, and it's nice to talk to you guys.
Keep painting.
Yes, okay, yeah, you too.
Stay gold, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take it
Thank
easy.
you, Mateo.
Thank you so
Love
much.
you.
Safe,
Bye-bye.
Matt.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
As soon as we're filming, we're in lunch, guys.
Bye.
You'll get surprised. You'll get surprised about the beautiful film that Matt just directed. It's a great job, and it's gonna be. We hope it's gonna be in theaters very soon. ¿Ya se fue?
Ya se fue.
Ya la verán. Y gracias, como ya saben todos, esto es como para tener un chance de encontrarnos y para seguir manteniendo la Casa del Cine viva, aunque sea online por ahora. Ya volveremos pronto, dice el gobierno que ya podremos volver, pero lo que diga el gobierno nosotros nos lo pasamos por los huevos. Que si no estamos bien, si no está la gente de Casa del Cine segura y el público seguro, no volveremos pronto, o sea, sí volveremos, pero no pronto. Mientras tanto, estamos haciendo nuestro mayor esfuerzo para seguir manteniéndonos, así que ya saben, todo esto es para que lo compartan. Si le tomaron fotos, compártanlo, que la gente lo vea. Estamos ahí medio sobreviviendo. Si alguien quiere ir a la página y dar un donativo, bienvenidos. Si no pueden, igual bienvenidos. Y esto es gratis. Pero bueno, pues toda ayuda se agradece. Y gracias por seguir participando. Mañana tenemos la clase de Mark Belver a las 6 de la tarde. Y la semana que viene, off the record, todavía no es seguro si va a ser Guillermo Arriaga o Cecilia Suárez, con quien echaremos una chela o un café. Ahí vamos sacando todo el directorio de los amigos famosos que tenemos. Pero
Gracias, Carlos.
Gracias a ustedes y
Chao.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Carlos.
Gracias.
que resistan en la cuarentena, vean cine, tomen vino.
Ya queremos que abran de nuevo.
Vamos a abrir, pero vengan, por favor, todos los que puedan. Tendremos todas nuestras...
Siempre.
Siempre vamos.
Mira, mi primo Carlos, que ya quiere tomar Bacardí, dice. Venga, pues, que les vaya bien. Gracias,
Abrazo.
Gracias, Carlos. Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias.